Hello, my name is Professor Antonio Ramirez from Elgin Community College. I teach history and political science here at the college, and I'm also the director and co-founder of the college's Center for Civic Engagement. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the history of that center, our vision and mission for founding the center, a little bit about its continuing work, and also what we hope, what kind of effect it might have on students and the culture on campus. So I want to start by telling a little story of how the idea for the center really originated. For about 5 years, I led a delegation of students to something called Model Illinois Government, which is, in fact, the nation's longest continuously running state government simulation in our capital of Springfield, Illinois. And students from around the state, community colleges, universities, converge on our House and Senate state assembly chambers. They sit in the seats of legislators and they debate bills from the previous session. It's a 4-day simulation. It goes from about 8 in the morning, often until 11 at night. It's really fun. It's really engaging. It's a wonderful experiential learning experience for students. Students have developed lifelong friendships from this experience, and many of my students have gone on to become elected, and serve on the organization's executive board. So for those 5 years, it was a really, really wonderful experience. Students learned a lot. Some students ended up pursuing careers in the public sector or in state government. So it was just a really wonderful experience, not only for the students, but for myself. But the story that I want to tell, it happened a little bit after we started Model Illinois Government. I had about 14 students or so who attended the simulation, and we made a presentation to Elgin Community College's Board of Trustees. And I had about, I think, 8 students who participated in the simulation, and they talked a little bit about how much fun they had in Springfield, how much they learned, how engaged they were, and energized, honestly, after this experience. And I remember one of the Board of Trustees members asked the students, "What are your majors?" And we went down the line, and each and every student, maybe it was social pressure, but I think they were genuinely excited because we had just returned from the trip. All of those students said political science, political science, political science. And for me as a professor, who part of my job is to really get students engaged and excited about the material, that was great, right? Um, but it also really gave me pause, because I thought, let's imagine that these students do go on to pursue a political science bachelor's degree at a local, or state university. Then what for these students, right? I've set them up on a track. Then what's going to happen with these students? I really worried about, the ways that they could get connected into a strong career path, something that could, build them as people and as citizens, but also that could, be a productive career for them, something that would earn them a solid salary and, allow them to live a life with integrity and dignity that we all want, right? So I started to think, as a community college professor, what kind of value can I add to the students' experience that will not only get them really engaged and energized, but also build some of those skills and connections that will allow them to pursue a productive career, perhaps in the public sector, um, or whether they pursue a different career, also start to develop those skills of an engaged citizen. So I started to kick around the idea of a political education center. My wife, Catherine McCormick, was in fact a big thought partner on this idea, as well as was Dr. Latasha Chafin, who is currently a professor of political science at the University of Charleston in South Carolina. She was the co-founder of this center. Um, and so we started to talk about this idea and eventually approached administration about founding a Center for Civic Engagement. And fortunately, this is one of the things that I wanted to share. Fortunately, our administration was open to the idea, right? I think the political climate of the last few years has really highlighted the need for more youth involvement and more opportunities for youth to be more civically engaged, but also just on a personal level, we have administrators at Elgin Community College that are open to innovation. They're open to taking risks and they're open to cultivating what faculty bring to the table, even if it is an idea that is outside the norm. And our Center for Civic Engagement is, in fact, outside the norm, at least in our region. We're only the second community college in our state to have a Center for Civic Engagement. Some universities have them, private and public, but community colleges, this is a rare occurrence. So I think our president, Dr. David Sam, our former president, and our current president, Dr. Peggy Heinrich, are really doing a service to the students and to the community by supporting innovative projects like this. I also want to emphasize that my own dean, Dr. Mary Hatch, was a really important support for me as a developing faculty member and supporting innovative projects. Pretty famously, Mary Hatch is a theater person. And so she always has said that her approach to being a dean is like the rule in improvisation, right? When you're making up jokes and you're making up, scenes and things. And there's a rule in improv that is yes and, right? So if somebody proposes a situation, no matter how outlandish, no matter how crazy, you say yes, you accept that and you build on it, right? And so Dr. Hatch had always said to me, Dean Hatch had always said to me, that's her approach to being a dean is if somebody brings an idea to her, she's going to try to accept it and build on it, right? Rather than what sometimes, bureaucracies tend to do is try to quash it down, right? Our current dean, Mary Perkins, was also a really expert at navigating the systems and navigating administration and really being our cheerleader for this project in order to get it across the finish line and keep continuing support for the project. So we're very thankful for both of those deans. So our Center for Civic Engagement was founded in fall of last year. Over the course of the first year, I know you're going to hear a little bit about our activities, but we really tried to focus on experiential learning and what Scholar LD Fink calls significant learning experiences. So opportunities for students to engage in real world situations with real stakes, right? And I have found that students rise to the occasion. They learn quite a bit. They demonstrate really serious maturity. Their skills develop really rapidly when they are given authentic experiences, right? So some of those authentic experiences are actual candidate forums. So we've had students moderate, design the questions, and implement candidate forums for our local mayoral race, for our board of trustees election. We have a candidate forum for the county board chair position for our county, for the state's attorney position, right? For city council members. So students really rise to the occasion when they're given these authentic experiences, right? We've tried to create situations where students can interact with legislators, not just in a passive way where they're listening to information, but they're speaking back or they're engaging in real conversation with legislators. I'll start with one example just from this semester. One of our students was able to ask Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg a question about how he was inspired to become involved in politics because one of our students would like to run for a local office. So at that level, which is a really great experience and memorable experience for our students, but also down to inviting Kane County board members, our county, to come to campus and engage in conversations with students, staff, and faculty across the campus about real issues, right? To learn from each other. And this is beneficial to local officials as well. We're actually giving them a service because many local elected officials don't have access to young voters. They don't really have regular conversations with them about issues, so they don't know what they care about. They don't know what they think, right? They get practice, honestly, interacting with a newer generation of voter. So I think it's a win-win situation. So a couple other things I want to emphasize before I end here is that I have seen these significant learning experiences really be just that, be significant, be life-changing in some cases for students, but at a very, very bare minimum, definitely enriching students' ability to be engaged citizens in our democracy and in our society. On a more practical level, we've had students who have gotten jobs out of these opportunities. We had a student that was working in the Illinois State Speaker of the House's office, now works in a different state agency. Another student who went on to work in local government as a communications officer, students who have interned for both US senators, for state legislators, and who have gone on to be offered jobs as well. So on a more practical level, I do think that that attempt by the Center for Civic Engagement to build up the students' cultural capital and then also provide them with professional networking opportunities is really working. On a broader level on campus, one of the goals of the Center for Civic Engagement is just to really create a culture of engagement on campus that even extends beyond the students, where these types of things feel regular, right? Talking about elections, talking about important issues, having early voting on campus. We'll have early voting on campus for the third time in the last year and a half. And it had been a decade at least since the county had brought their mobile voting unit to campus, despite the fact that we regularly have 4,000 to 5,000 registered or potential voters on campus every single day, right? So creating that culture on campus. And I think that for students, what we hope for them in the future is that this will really provide a strong foundation, particularly for our civic leaders, but also for the folks they know and the folks that they interact with through these programs. Really build and create these habits of engagement, right? That can be lifelong, right? We've seen research that says that if a student or a young person registers and votes right when they turn 18, then they're more likely to vote for the rest of their lives. I think this is true with, having dialogue around important political issues, talking to legislators, right? Speaking in public at public events, attending events on public issues, right? All of those things we're building and making more regular, not just for our civic leaders, especially for our civic leaders, but also for the entire campus, that I hope convert into habits of engagement that extend across their lifetimes. So thank you so much. I'm so excited about this project. It is really just a really true joy to be working with these students and to be engaging with legislators, to be talking about the most important issues that affect our society and our democracy. So I'm so proud to be the director of the Center for Civic Engagement. And I'm so happy to be able to share this information with you today. So thank you very much.